Carter G. Woodson stood at the entrance of Berea College's main building, his worn suitcase in hand. He was 25 years old, a college graduate now, but he felt like an imposter. Around him, students moved with ease, young men and women who'd never known the darkness of coal mines, who'd never fallen asleep with textbooks stained by coal dust. "You must be the new student from West Virginia," a voice said. Carter turned to see a white student, tall and well-dressed, extending his hand. "I'm Robert Hamilton. Welcome to Berea." Carter shook his hand. "Carter Woodson, thank you. Where did you do your undergraduate work?" Robert asked casually. "Here, at Berea. I graduated last year." Robert's eyebrows raised slightly. "Oh, and before that?" "Coal mines. I worked in coal mines." There was a pause. Robert's smile didn't fade, but something shifted in his eyes. "How interesting." "Well, I'm sure you'll find the graduate program challenging. Most of us come from preparatory academies." That first week, Carter felt the weight of that difference everywhere. In literature class, students discussed books he'd never heard of. In history seminars, they quoted philosophers in Latin and Greek. And when Professor Reynolds asked the class about their research interests, Carter was the only one who mentioned Negro history. "Mr. Woodson," Professor Reynolds said, his tone polite but dismissive, "I admire your enthusiasm, but you must understand. History is the study of civilization, of progress, of great men and their achievements. The Negro experience, while unfortunate, is not really history. It's sociology, perhaps, or anthropology." Carter felt his face grow hot. "But sir, enslaved people built this nation. Free black people fought in every American war. How is that not history?" "It's context, Mr. Woodson. Background. But history needs primary sources, documentation, scholarship. Where are the black historians? Where are the archives? Where are the books?" "Maybe," Carter said quietly. "They don't exist because people like us haven't written them yet." The class was silent. Some students smirked. Others looked uncomfortable. After class, a black student approached him. His name was Thomas, one of only 3 other black graduate students. "That was brave, man, but pointless. They'll never see us as real scholars." "Then we'll make them see," Carter said. Thomas shook his head. "I used to think like you, but I've been here 2 years. Every paper I write about black topics gets marked down. Every question I raise gets dismissed. So now I write about European history, ancient Greece, Rome, anything but us. And my grades are better? So you're hiding?" "I'm surviving," Thomas said. "There's a difference." That night, Carter sat in his small room, looking at the stack of books he'd borrowed from the library. Not one mentioned black Americans except as slaves or problems to be solved. Not one told the stories he'd heard from old people in West Virginia, stories of resistance, of achievement, of humanity. He picked up his pen and began to write. "If they say our history doesn't exist, I will find it. If they say there are no sources, I will discover them. If they say there are no black historians, I will become one." 2 years passed. Carter moved to the University of Chicago to pursue his master's degree. If Berea had been challenging, Chicago was overwhelming. The library was 10 times larger, the professors more intimidating, the competition fiercer. But Carter had learned. He worked harder than anyone. He arrived at the library when it opened and left when it closed. He read everything, not just what was assigned, but everything he could find about American history, world history, methodology. Yet every time he tried to research black history, he hit walls. Mr. Woodson, the head librarian, said one day, "I'm afraid we don't have materials on that subject. But you have materials on immigrant groups, on Native Americans, on... Those are established fields of study, Mr. Woodson. What you're asking for, well, the documentation simply doesn't exist. Then where would it be?" The librarian shrugged. "Perhaps in attics, in old plantation records, in church basements, but not in academic libraries." Carter realized something profound. The archives were silent, not because Black people had no history, but because no one had thought their history worth preserving. He began making trips. On weekends, he'd take trains to small towns in Illinois and Indiana. He'd visit Black churches and ask if they had old records. He'd knock on doors of elderly Black people and ask if they had letters, documents, anything from their parents or grandparents. Most people were suspicious at first. "Why do you want this?" an old woman asked him, clutching a bundle of letters her father had written during the Civil War. "Because it matters," Carter said. "Because your father's words are history. Because if we don't preserve them, they'll be lost forever." She looked at him for a long moment, then handed him the letters. "Make copies. Bring them back to me. But yes, tell his story." Carter began accumulating a collection. Old letters, church records, newspaper clippings, diaries. He kept them in boxes in his tiny apartment. His roommate, another graduate student named William, thought he was crazy. "Carter, you're supposed to be writing a thesis on the established curriculum, not collecting trash from strangers." "This isn't trash," Carter said, carefully handling a diary from 1863. "This is a Black soldier's account of fighting at Vicksburg. This is primary source material. This is history. It's not history until the academic establishment says it is. Then I'll make them say it." His thesis advisor, Professor Harrison, was less dismissive than others, but still skeptical. "Mr. Woodson, your research is unconventional. If you want to pass your thesis defense, you need to ground this in established historical methodology." "I am," Carter said. "I'm using primary sources, cross-referencing dates, analyzing context. I'm doing everything historians are supposed to do." "Yes, but you're doing it about the wrong subjects." "There are no wrong subjects in history, sir. Only unexplored ones." Professor Harrison sighed. "You're making this harder than it needs to be. But I admire your persistence. If you can produce a rigorous thesis, and I mean rigorous by our highest standards, I'll support your defense." Carter worked for 18 months on that thesis. He barely slept. He interviewed over 50 people. He traveled to 6 states collecting documents. And when he finally submitted The Education of Free Negroes Before the Civil War, it was 400 pages of meticulously researched, carefully documented scholarship. His defense was brutal. Professors challenged every source, questioned every conclusion, demanded proof for claims that would have been accepted without question in any other historical work. But Carter was prepared. For every challenge, he had an answer. For every doubt, he had evidence. At the end, Professor Harrison smiled. A rare sight. "Congratulations, Mr. Woodson. You've earned your master's degree. And if I'm being honest, this is some of the most original research I've seen in years." At 33, Carter G. Woodson became one of the few Black students admitted to Harvard University's doctoral program in history. It should have been a triumph. Instead, it felt like entering enemy territory. Harvard's history department in 1908 was a bastion of traditional scholarship. The professors were distinguished, the standards were exacting, and the assumption was clear. History was about European civilization and American progress, and both were fundamentally white narratives. Carter's advisor, Professor Albert Bushnell Hart, was considered progressive for his time. He'd written about slavery and Reconstruction, but even he couldn't hide his skepticism when Carter proposed his dissertation topic, the Negro in Virginia, before 1861. Carter said. Hart leaned back in his chair. "Mr. Woodson, I respect your commitment to this subject, but a Harvard dissertation must break new ground. What you're proposing, documenting the lives of enslaved people, it's been done. We have plantation records. We have WPA interviews." "No, sir." Carter interrupted, then immediately regretted his boldness. "With respect, those sources tell us what white people thought about black people. I want to find sources where black people speak for themselves." "And you believe such sources exist?" "I know they do. I've been finding them for years." Hart studied him. "You understand that your dissertation committee will include Professor Morrison, who has publicly stated that Negro history is an oxymoron. You'll need to defend this work against hostile questions." "I've been doing that since Berea, sir." "Harvard is different. The standards here are unforgiving, especially for students like you." "Students like you." Carter heard the euphemism clearly. "I can meet Harvard standards," Carter said quietly. The next 3 years were the hardest of Carter's life. He taught high school during the day to pay his bills, studied at night, and spent summers traveling through Virginia, Maryland, and the Carolinas, searching for documents. He found them in unexpected places. A black church in Richmond had baptismal records going back to 1790. A free black family in Charleston had preserved letters their ancestors had written. A white woman in Alexandria had inherited her great-grandfather's papers, including correspondence with his educated enslaved valet. But finding sources was only half the battle. Carter's classmates, all white except for one other black student, treated him with polite distance. He was never invited to study groups. No one asked his opinion in seminars. During one class discussion about Reconstruction, a student actually turned to Carter and asked, "What do your people think about this?" As if he represented all black Americans. Carter wanted to explode. Instead, he said calmly, "I think we should look at the primary sources and draw evidence-based conclusions." The isolation was crushing. His one friend, another black doctoral student named Edward, dropped out after 2 years. "I can't do this anymore, Carter. Every day I have to prove I deserve to be here. Every paper gets scrutinized 3 times harder than anyone else's. And for what? Even if I finish, no white university will hire me, and black colleges can't afford to pay decent salaries." "So you're giving up?" "I'm being realistic," Edward said. "Not everyone can be a martyr for the cause." After Edward left, Carter was completely alone, but he pushed forward. His dissertation grew to over 600 pages. He documented the lives of free black people, enslaved black people, and those who navigated between slavery and freedom. He used wills, deeds, court records, letters, newspaper advertisements, and interviews. His oral defense in 1912 lasted 4 hours. Professor Morrison was as hostile as predicted. "Mr. Woodson, how can you call this history when your subjects were not participants in the political and economic structures that drive historical change?" "Because history isn't just about politics and economics," Carter said. "It's about human experience. These people were participants. They resisted, they adapted, they preserved their humanity against a system designed to destroy it. That's history. But where is the scholarly contribution? What new theoretical framework are you providing? I'm providing evidence, sir. I'm letting the sources speak. Isn't that what history is supposed to do? When the committee finally dismissed him to deliberate, Carter sat outside the room, exhausted. He'd given everything to this moment. When they called him back in, Professor Hart's face was unreadable. "Mr. Woodson," he said, "by a vote of 4-1, your dissertation has been approved. Congratulations, Dr. Woodson." Dr. Woodson, after 12 years of graduate study, after countless rejections and dismissals, after proving himself again and again, Carter G. Woodson had become one of the first Black Americans to earn a PhD in history from Harvard University. But as he walked out of that building, diploma in hand, he felt no triumph, only resolve. The work was just beginning. Dr. Carter G. Woodson, PhD, Harvard University. The title looked impressive on paper. In reality, it meant very little in 1912 America. Carter sent out dozens of applications to universities across the country. He was qualified, more qualified than most. He had 3 degrees, published research, and teaching experience. But every response was the same. "We regret to inform you that the position has been filled. Your credentials are impressive, but we feel you would not be a good fit for our department. While we appreciate your interest, we have decided to pursue other candidates." Some were honest enough to say what the others implied. "Our students and faculty are not prepared for a Negro professor." Carter saved every rejection letter. He kept them in a folder labeled evidence. One day, he thought, someone would need to document how America treated its Black scholars. Meanwhile, he needed to eat. He took a position teaching high school in Washington, D.C. The salary was a fraction of what white professors earned, but it was something. And the students, bright, young Black teenagers hungry for knowledge, reminded him why he started this journey. But teaching high school wasn't why he'd spent 12 years earning degrees. He wanted to research, to write, to build the field of Black history that the academic establishment denied existed. So he did it on his own. He rented a small office space with his own money. He spent his evenings and weekends there, surrounded by the documents he'd been collecting for years. He began writing articles, careful, scholarly pieces with footnotes and citations, and sent them to academic journals. They all came back rejected. Not appropriate for our publication. Lacks relevance to mainstream historical discourse. Perhaps better suited for Negro publications. That last comment stung the most, as if Black history could only be read by Black people, as if white scholars and readers had no obligation to understand the full story of America. His friend Marcus, a Black doctor who'd faced similar discrimination, visited him one evening. "Carter, why are you torturing yourself? You have a good job. You're respected in the community. Why do you keep banging your head against this wall?" "Because the wall is wrong," Carter said. "Black people have history, important history, and if I don't document it, who will? White historians ignore it, and most Black people are too busy surviving to write it down. Somebody has to do this work, but at what cost? You're 37 years old. You have no wife, no family, barely enough money to live on. And for what? So white academics can keep rejecting you?" Carter looked at the boxes of documents filling his small office. Letters from enslaved people. Diaries of free Black businessmen. church records documenting births, deaths, marriages, court cases where black people fought for their freedom, newspaper articles by black writers arguing for justice. "Look at all this," he said to Marcus. "These are voices that were never supposed to be heard, stories that were never supposed to be told. If I give up, they disappear forever." Marcus sighed. "You're the most stubborn man I know, but also the bravest." In 1915, Carter made a decision. If the white academic establishment wouldn't support his work, he'd create his own institution. With his own savings and donations from a few black professionals, he founded the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History. It had no building, no endowment, no staff except Carter himself. But it had a mission: to document and preserve black history. He also decided to start a journal, the Journal of Negro History. It should be the first academic journal dedicated to black history, with the same scholarly standards as any white publication. Getting it printed was another battle. No major publisher would touch it. Carter finally found a small black-owned press willing to print the first issue. If Carter paid for it himself, he used nearly all his savings. The first issue of the Journal of Negro History appeared in January 1916. Carter printed 500 copies and mailed them to libraries, universities, and prominent individuals across the country. Most never responded. Some sent them back. A few white historians wrote mocking reviews, but some people read it. Black teachers ordered copies for their schools. Black ministers shared articles with their congregations, and a few white scholars, a very few, wrote to say the work was important. Carter sat in his tiny office looking at the handful of encouraging letters. It wasn't triumph. It wasn't vindication. It was barely survival, but it was a beginning. The Journal of Negro History was in its third year, and Carter G. Woodson was exhausted. He taught high school all day, then spent his evenings editing articles, writing correspondence, and searching for new sources. He paid for the journal's printing from his modest salary, and when that wasn't enough, he gave lectures for small fees to black community groups. The academic establishment still refused to acknowledge his work, but something else was happening. Black teachers across the country were discovering the journal. They wrote to Carter, asking for more information to share with their students. Black newspapers began reprinting some of the articles. Slowly, quietly, people were reading. Then came the attack. A prominent white historian, Dr. William Dunning of Columbia University, published a scathing review. He called the Journal of Negro History an exercise in racial advocacy, masquerading as scholarship. He claimed Carter's work lacked objectivity, that it was impossible for a black scholar to write dispassionately about black history. Other white historians piled on. They questioned Carter's sources. They dismissed his methodology. They suggested, not subtly, that a Negro teaching high school had no business claiming to be a serious historian. Carter's friend Marcus found him in his office, surrounded by the negative reviews. Don't let them get to you. This is what they do. They can't attack your work on its merits, so they attack you. But it's working, Carter said bitterly. I submitted an article to the American Historical Review. They rejected it without even peer review, citing concerns about objectivity. Meanwhile, they publish articles by white Southerners who openly defend slavery. So, what are you going to do? Carter was quiet for a long moment. Then he picked up his pen. I'm going to be twice as rigorous, 3 times. I'm going to document every single claim with multiple sources. I'm going to make my work so airtight that they have no grounds to dismiss it. That's an impossible standard. They don't hold themselves to that. I know, but I don't have a choice. For his next major work, Carter decided to write a book, a comprehensive history of Black education in America before the Civil War. He spent 2 years researching. He traveled to archives in 12 states. He examined thousands of documents. He interviewed dozens of elderly people who remembered the pre-war period. The result was the education of the Negro prior to 1861. It was 400 pages of dense, carefully documented scholarship. Every claim had multiple citations. Every statistic was cross-referenced. Every quote was verified. Carter submitted the manuscript to 8 publishers. 7 rejected it outright. The 8th, a small academic press, agreed to publish it, but only if Carter paid half the printing costs. He had no money left. He spent everything on the journal, so he did something unprecedented. He asked his community for help. He gave talks at Black churches, explaining his work. He visited Black colleges and asked for donations. The response surprised him. Families who had little gave what they could. Teachers pooled their resources. A Black businessman in Philadelphia donated $500. A fortune. Within 6 months, Carter had raised the money needed. The book was published in 1919. The white academic establishment largely ignored it, but Black educators devoured it. It proved what many had known but couldn't document. Black Americans had always valued education, had always fought for learning, even when it was illegal and dangerous to do so. Then unexpectedly, one of the rejecting publishers wrote back. They'd received numerous requests for the book from Black colleges and schools. Would Dr. Woodson be interested in a second edition? Now they want it. Carter said to Marcus, showing him the letter, "Now that Black people have proven there's a market, so what will you tell them?" Carter looked at the letter, then at the boxes of documents still waiting to be organized, at the articles still waiting to be written, the stories still waiting to be told. I'll tell them yes, because this isn't about pride. It's about getting the work into as many hands as possible. But that night, alone in his office, Carter felt the weight of what he carried, the burden of being the only Black historian most people had ever heard of, the burden of having to prove again and again that Black history mattered, the burden of knowing that if he failed, white America would use his failure as evidence that Black people had no history worth studying. It was a burden no white scholar ever had to carry. By 1920, Carter G. Woodson was 45 years old. He'd been fighting for 15 years to establish Black history as a legitimate field of study. He'd published dozens of articles, 3 books, and kept the Journal of Negro History alive through sheer willpower and his own dwindling bank account. But something was shifting. The Great Migration had brought millions of Black Southerners to northern cities. In places like Chicago, Detroit, and New York, Black communities were growing, becoming more politically active, demanding their rights, and they were hungry for their history. Carter began receiving invitations to speak, not just to small church groups, but to large community gatherings. When he talked about Black heroes and Black achievements, people listened with an intensity he'd never seen before. After one such talk in Chicago, a young teacher approached him. "Dr. Woodson, everything you talked about tonight, why didn't I learn any of this in school?" Why isn't this taught to our children? Because, Carter said, the people who write the textbooks don't think it's important. Then we need to teach it ourselves. We need our own schools, our own books. Oh, Carter interrupted a new idea for me. We need a week, 1 week a year, where Black history is taught everywhere, in Black schools and white schools, in churches and community centers. 1 week where America has to acknowledge that Black history is American history. The idea grew in his mind. He discussed it with other Black educators and community leaders. Some loved it, others were skeptical. A week, Marcus said. That's all. We have centuries of history, and you want to squeeze it into 7 days? It's not about squeezing, Carter explained. It's about creating a door. Once people step through it, once they see that Black history is rich and important and inspiring, they'll want to learn more. 1 week can become a lifetime of learning. And you think white America will accept this? I don't care if they accept it. We'll do it ourselves. We'll create materials. We'll train teachers. We'll organize events. We'll make it impossible to ignore. In 1924, Carter began planning what he called Negro History Week. He chose the second week of February because it included the birthdays of Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass. He prepared materials, articles, bibliographies, suggested lessons. He contacted Black newspapers, churches, and schools. The first Negro History Week in 1926 was modest. A few hundred schools participated. Some churches held special programs. Black newspapers ran special editions. But it was a start. Carter threw himself into expanding it. He created Negro history kits with posters, lesson plans, and reading materials. He trained teachers. He gave lectures across the country. He used the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History to coordinate everything. Slowly, participation grew. By 1928, thousands of schools were celebrating Negro History Week. By 1930, it had spread to every state. White educators began to notice. Some even started to participate. One evening in 1930, sitting in his office, now slightly larger thanks to some foundation grants, Carter reflected on his journey. He'd spent 25 years fighting for Black history. 25 years of rejection and struggle and exhaustion. But Negro History Week was working. Children were learning that they had a history to be proud of. Teachers were discovering sources they'd never known existed. Communities were gathering to honor their ancestors. It wasn't everything Carter had dreamed of. Black history still wasn't taught in most schools year-round. He still had to fund most of his work from his own pocket. White historians still dismissed him, but seeds had been planted. And seeds, given time, could grow into forests. Carter picked up his pen and began writing a letter to a teacher in Mississippi who'd written asking for materials. As he wrote, he thought, this is what victory looks like. Not dramatic, not sudden, just steady, persistent work. Day after day, year after year, building something that will outlast me. He didn't know that 50 years later, his Negro History Week would become Black History Month. He didn't know that his journal would still be published a century later. He didn't know that the association he founded would inspire generations of Black historians. All he knew was that the work had to be done. And so he kept doing it.